they want to.
And welcome to Let 'Em Talk. I'm Paul DiRienzo, who's turning off the music and sitting back and saying, I didn't get to properly welcome you back, Joni. You've been away for so long, and we're so happy to have you back with us on the camera. Last week we didn't get a chance having so fast, but our guest, and we have my old friend Kenny Toglia, who's also going to talk about some very important information he has for you, people out there who listen to this show especially, I'm sure, and we'll tell you about how to avoid, I think what you called in the article I wrote, the only thing that's not good about marijuana.
That's right.
Wow, I didn't even know there was one thing.
Right.
So we didn't even know the one thing that's not good about marijuana, and Kenny Toglia is going to tell us how to avoid that so you can enjoy your marijuana without having to worry about the one thing that's wrong with it, which fortunately is totally and eminently avoidable. And we're going to teach.
Now, where is this article? We've alluded to here. Yeah.
The Villager newspaper.
Okay.
It's in this week's Villager newspaper, which is the East Villager, which is
which
the
you can
East
get
Village
in the East
version
Village,
of it.
Lower East Side, right?
And you can go to thevillager.com and
Okay.
just look at the Avenue A pot thingamajig with my name, and you can read it there.
Pot
right online.
thingamajig.
Well, whatever. I forget the title exactly, but it's there. It's about Avenue A because it's on Avenue A.
Yes, the University of the Streets, Mohammed Salahuddin Theater, Memorial Jazz Theater, is right over 7A Cafe, which is, a local landmark, really.
Right, so that's at 7th and A, and it's...
Yes, the address is 130 East 7th Street, and it's the University of the Streets. And I don't know, you guys have been around the neighborhood for a while.
And it has been around the neighborhood for a while.
Yeah, University of the Streets has been a community center there for going on close to 50 years now.
Wow.
And one thing about them is that they do martial arts and other kinds of trainings there, but they're primarily a local jazz venue, and it's always been like a studio for old and new jazz artists to come together. And if the folks out there in the audience in TV land have not been down there for the Friday and Saturday night open mic jam sessions, they are a Lower East Side musical institution, and I know it's donation, so it's affordable to anybody, and that's every Friday and Saturday nights down there about 11 o'clock. They're doing the open mic jazz session.
Nice.
Cool.
Now, what are you doing there?
Yeah. Well, I was going to remind folks that we are live and that there's a phone number on the screen. And you can call 212-757-1538 and ask us questions about what we're going to discuss right now, because we're going to ask Kenny what his organization, because your organization is the New York Medical...
it's the Medical Marijuana Association of New York, and that's easy to remember because it's many, because there are so many medical marijuana patients in New York.
What is medical marijuana? I ask this question a lot to our guests who come and talk about this. What is medical marijuana?
That's a great question. Really in the United States over the last 20 or 30 years, there's been a big movement, not just with medical marijuana, but all around towards different kinds of, holistic and non-invasive health care. And I think that medical marijuana is really a big part of that movement. I was just looking over some of the recent scientific research, because I like to keep up to date of what's coming in, on a monthly basis. And there was an article about this drug that's used for for nerve pain called gabapentin. And they were saying that gabapentin is useful for helping people to stop compulsively smoking marijuana. It's useful as a treatment, for people who are, quote, addicted to marijuana. And the thing about that, first of all, is that everybody at this point will tell you that marijuana is not addictive in the traditional sense any more than ice cream,
Right,
or
peppermint tea.
things. You can become compulsive about anything, but there's never, addicted is the wrong word to use. It's more like habituated. But what I found really interesting is I looked up the side effects of gabapentin, which, as I understand it, is basically a mild tranquilizer. And the side effects of gabapentin are so much worse than the
compulsively smoking pot.
than the side effects from marijuana use. And so I have trouble wrapping my head around, like, why would you want to take something that can potentially give you seizures and this kind of thing, when the major side effect of marijuana is a mild feeling of euphoria or a pleasant feeling.
The fight since the 1930s, when marijuana was made, against the federal law, and the war on drugs against marijuana, the war on marijuana users really got ramped up and began. From the very beginning, it's been a fight between traditional medical people who say that all drugs should be specific chemicals that can be given to a person and then tested in a very specific way, and that marijuana is this collection of chemicals that cannot be isolated from each other and therefore cannot be scientifically tested. So the fight has always been these two visions of medicine, one of an herbalist type of nature and one of a extremely targeted chemical nature.
Well, I agree with you, but I think what you're leaving out is the fact that once you're talking about a single molecule or drug, that's something that can be patented, and
right.
Whereas when you're talking about a useful plant, a medicinal plant, that's not something that can be controlled by anybody. And that's one of the great things I think about the sort of anarchic nature of the marijuana plant itself.
Now, I want to get a little background. We're going to talk in a minute about what you're actually doing now, but a little background about yourself.
Absolutely.
Because back in, when was it, 1999 or so, weren't you, you were running an actual marijuana clinic in the same location that was raided, or something happened?
Yes. I'll tell you, I have been working with medical marijuana patients in the New York City environment pretty much way back since the whole movement really began. I remember meeting Dennis Perrone and these guys, and I guess that was really sometime in the late 80s.
Right?
Harvey Milk's, Dennis Perrone is a great man and the founder of our movement, I really like to say. But I've been involved with medical marijuana patients in New York City for about 20, close to 20 years. And during that time, I had a lot of experience doing what we call progressive substance abuse treatment, like different harm reduction modalities. So I was the harm reduction coordinator at Housing Works, which is the most progressive housing organization for people with AIDS and HIV. And I also did groundbreaking harm reduction modality treatment at Catholic Charities when I was working there. So I have really a lot of experience working, in kind of a social work frame, and that's what I brought to the medical marijuana movement personally, I think. And yeah, I guess that was, I think it was 2000 actually, and at that time, the organization that we had put together was called the New York Medical Marijuana Patients Cooperative, and that was meeting every Wednesday at University of the Streets. And go ahead.
And there was people who usually had HIV or some other serious illness, medical MS or glaucoma. Some of these. In other words, how did they become members of your club and get up to, as I was reading, 600 members at one point?
Right. Well, that was mostly through word of mouth, and different patient organizations and outreach. And
you were actually, the club was actually at that time providing marijuana. Correct?
The club was actually providing marijuana at that time. Yeah.
But you were surprised when the police arrested you.
Well, at that time, as you know, the district attorney was Robert Morgenthau, and the Morgenthau family has a long history of progressive work in New York City, and one of the things that we had been able to do at that time, not just myself, but a couple of other kind of grassroots patient organizations, was to sort of broker a deal with Morgenthau's office, not to pursue legitimate medical marijuana clubs. And so that's why, yes, we were very surprised at that time when the club was raided.
What made you legitimate?
Well, in some ways, because of the unique environment of New York City, I like to think that a lot of the stuff that we were doing was some of the most progressive in the country, really, even including, like, California. I give big ups to California. You guys are great and all that, but at the same time, the environment here in New York City is a lot more like people would call up all the time asking questions. They want an explanations of the different pharmacological actions of marijuana. Also, we dealt quite a lot of time with people who were HIV positive or had multiple sclerosis or something and were on probation. So we were frequently writing letters to probation officers explaining to them, why medical marijuana was a useful and viable treatment for a lot of these folks. And, I have always agreed with Dennis Perrone about medical marijuana being, it helps anybody's medical treatment, whatever sort of medical treatment they're going through. Medical marijuana can be a useful adjunct.
So he has a wider
Yes.
scope of what he would consider medical usage than
Well,
say,
yes,
just for a specific disease.
that's Dennis's line, absolutely, that it's all medical, that is all marijuana smoking is medical marijuana, is what Dennis says. And I don't know that I go quite that far here in New York City, but
You can see the argument.
yes.
Okay. So then, confiscated was a couple of pounds of pot and some cookies, oatmeal cookies.
Yes.
They were confiscated by the police, right? New York City Police Department?
That was quite the evening for me, because the club was busted. I think that there were close to 2 pounds of marijuana there. I think that there were like 75 people there, so all of whom were, very legitimate patients. The folks who got arrested with me, in fact, were all HIV patients. And yes, so the marijuana was seized by the police, and the cookies. Yes,
right?
there were about 50 medical marijuana, olive oil, oatmeal raisin cookies. Because
That sounds
Wow,
delightful.
for people who couldn't smoke. And what happened to those cookies?
well, the funny thing is that while those cookies were sitting around the 9th precinct, a bunch of them disappeared.
And what did you do to try and get them back?
Well, I made a complaint because actually, and this is kind of a traditional thing in New York City, but when I was actually charged, there was much less marijuana on the charge than I actually possessed at the time, and there was also a big gap in the cookies. There was something like
Cookie
Cookie
Gate.
Monster.
it was
Cookie
Cookie
Monster
Gate.
and Cookie Gate. All right, so you never got the cookies back, so what
I
happened to your
never-
charges?
I tried to get the cookies back. I did. I asked for it when the case was dismissed. So I said, well,
How
now
about
that
those cookies?
now that we've got this all the way, can I have my cookies and my medical marijuana back? But they said no.
Okay. Kenny, let's jump to, so we're 14 minutes in, so let's jump to today. Interesting story, by the way. The background is very fascinating. Let's come to today, Kenny Toglia, and you're at MENI, the Medical
Marijuana Association of New York,
meeting at 7th and A at the University of the Streets.
130 East 7th Street, 2nd floor, University of the Streets, Bell.
And Thursdays at 6 p.m. or
Yes,
something.
every Thursday from 6 p.m. like clockwork.
Okay, so, but you're not, this is not a pot club. This
This is not a pot club now. What we're doing now is we are providing marijuana harm reduction education. And That's actually a big field, but what we're doing specifically is we are teaching folks about marijuana mold, Aspergillus.
What is
now
marijuana
what happens,
mold?
Yeah, and what happens if you smoke pot that has mold on it?
Well, that's the thing is the Aspergillus mold is actually, it's all around us in the atmosphere, but it's one of these things that it particularly likes wet marijuana. Like that's where, that's its favorite place to live. You can probably see why.
Yes.
And the problem with it is that when you smoke the marijuana and inhale it, you are inhaling high concentration of spores. And, again, this is only if the marijuana is moldy, because, marijuana that has been properly, dried and processed, it should be at a equilibrium in terms of its level of moisture.
Content,
But if marijuana becomes too moist, it can start to grow the Aspergillus mold. And that's the reason why actually I always recommend to people that they never try to remoisten their marijuana by putting a piece of apple in it. There are people who like to do that. I say no, don't do that. And also, if you're keeping your marijuana in the refrigerator or the freezer, that's also a very moist environment in the fridge, and in the freezer it can cause freezer burn. So don't keep it there, folks.
Okay, so people do that. So what are you going to do with this club? People actually...
Well,
can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Do you recommend keeping it in plastic, though?
My major recommendation is that it's kept in a cool, dry place. So, you can keep it in plastic or glass or whatever. But the thing is really you should think of it as being about like tea. You wouldn't put tea in the fridge.
Get moistened, right.
And, marijuana, like its shelf life in a cool, dry place is,
Pretty
a long time. Yeah.
Okay, sorry to interrupt.
So part of the problem is that, especially the lower-priced marijuana that's on the streets, a large percentage of that has the mold in it.
Right. You have to consider that a lot of kind of discount marijuana that has been laying around in people's basements.
Too long.
Right. The harvest really of natural outdoor marijuana is really about once a year, as far as I know.
So then they store it.
Right.
Like in the potato cellar type of
Yes.
thing. Yeah. Right. Now, how do you recognize that it's there? Like, can you tell just by looking at it, or?
Well, for one thing, there's a very particular smell to moldy marijuana, and rather than kind of try to describe what a smell like, because it's hard to describe, a smell. Yeah, what I'd like to tell people is that if your pot smells like anything that doesn't, that's not marijuana, that is suspect to me. Like you want to have like a.
I think you call it a wholesome marijuana smell.
A wholesome marijuana smell, or a skunky smell, really. You all know what I'm talking about there in TV land.
Right.
Yes.
And so that's one way to smell it.
Like,
Versus smell test.
Yes, and like a fruity smell, that's also to be avoided. And marijuana that's really started to turn bad can actually give off like kind of an ammonia smell, and that's when you can tell really that that the mold spores that it's very active. Yes.
Okay. So that's one of the. Now you mentioned it was three. It was a three-way scientific test.
Yes.
What's the second?
Well, again, like what we're doing at University of the Streets is the public is invited to bring in their marijuana, and we screen it for mold for you. So what we're doing is
at
the first thing at no cost.
And it teaches you how to do it.
Right.
So in the future, you can do it on your own.
Yes.
All right, and you have some of the instruments of destruction here, or
yes, I do.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. So the first test, actually, like we were saying, I happen to have a little street marijuana here. This is New York, kind of pressed.
Right.
New York City.
You have the flat
street marijuana, and
how's
this
the
actually
smells like pot.
Yeah.
Okay, let me try it.
It's not oregano.
Yeah, it smells like pot for sure.
And it does have that wholesome smell. Now, a lot of what we do is we can't really do it in here because, of course, the lighting is too bright, and we can't really do that. But the black light, the black light, it makes the black light. See, you can't see it at all
Yeah,
here.
but you'd use for a poster.
Black light
a
makes
black light for a poster. Here it is, the type of thing you would use. I'll bring
Very
it up a little closer
common,
to the camera. And you see that's a black light, and this is, where did you pick this up?
I bought that at the Halloween store on 4th Avenue for
I love that place.
Great.
Yes, I love that
Actually,
place
why
too.
don't can you walk a little, or maybe I'll walk closer.
Yeah,
and
why
just
don't
show
you do
people
that, Paul?
Close to here, you would hold the marijuana and then hold the black light over it.
And what would show up?
Well, if there were any white mold spots on there, they would glow.
Oh, just like the color white glows.
Yes.
In a black light in
Yes,
general.
because and the black light is useful for telling if something's really, really moldy,
It's
like
gone,
if it's pretty far gone. So if you hold your marijuana up to a black light
And it glows.
and it glows, like
Don't smoke it.
yes,
Right.
don't smoke that marijuana.
Okay.
Don't buy it, don't smoke
And
it.
now here's the third test.
Okay, give me
Yes,
the black light.
and the third part of our test is we use one of these. This is a Radio Shack. Is it still called Radio Shack, or
Yeah.
are they
Yeah,
just
they
the
say
Shack
that
now, or something?
I'm
But
not
anyway,
sure.
whatever they are, this costs I don't know, like $25, and it's a 40x microscope, which means that it magnifies something up to 40 times. It's very inexpensive, like I said. You take this kind of top off, and you stick a small piece of pot in there, and you can look at it through the thing.
Right.
And
Turn it on so people can see it. Maybe
yes,
actually
for the
do it. Can you
people
do
in
it?
TV
Can you actually-
land.
Yeah.
Sure, I'm going to take a little piece of this medical marijuana here,
Right.
and you put it in here, in the thing that holds it in place.
Okay, that's like the slide.
Yes, instead of using a slide. Okay, now
And
we're
it
going
runs
here.
on AA battery.
It runs on AA batteries. So
How's it
yeah,
look?
it looks like a high time centerfold
Oh,
here.
I see.
Right, there it goes. And what do you look for?
Well,
Oh, I see it. Oh, okay.
this is healthy marijuana.
Yeah.
You can adjust the
This thing.
yes on the side there, but that's healthy marijuana, and you see
Oh, that's good.
kind of gold hairs and
Yeah.
crystals. This is also, by the way, a really great way to find out how mature, which means how strong your marijuana
will be.
is.
Nice.
But when we're looking for the Aspergillus mold, what we're looking for is kind of gray, ugly hairs. Like you want to have pretty kind of blonde hairs on your marijuana.
Now, is there anything else that infects marijuana, or is this the main thing?
This is the main thing, and like I said, the problem is that like the mold
There it is.
spores exist all around us all the time, but when you have a concentrated
Inhalation.
inhalation
Yeah.
like that, especially people who are immune compromised, but also healthy people can get an infection that causes bronchitis and this kind of thing, and in people who are very immune suppressed, there's even been cases of actually deaths related to marijuana
So
mold.
this is worth being careful about.
It's worth being careful about, and it's something that people in the marijuana industry tend to know about. Like, your average pot on the corner that we all know, they know a little bit about this, but it's something that the general marijuana using public in New York City really doesn't know anything
Right, so we
about,
need to get this out.
and it's worth knowing about.
And it's worth stopping by and having, you don't have to bring your whole bag, bring just a little bud.
Bring just a little bud,
And
if
Kenny
you're
will let
worried.
You know
Right.
if you have anything to worry about here.
Yes, and for one thing, it is a public meeting, but at the same time, Governor Cuomo has just come out with I think he's kind of been pushed into this a little bit with the stop and frisk thing, but a public display like that, especially in this kind of circumstance and environment where it's clearly educational, that is not going to get you busted, and really, we'll test your pod for you, but the important thing is that we will teach you all about marijuana mold, so that you never have to, have that worry, really.
Right. And then, an informed consumer, You know, they always say. It's all
That's
saying,
right.
Yeah.
And you
Yes.
know when you go to buy it, what to look for.
Exactly. And you know, you can turn. I mean, you should turn down marijuana if it doesn't smell like wholesome marijuana, as I said.
First line of defense. Now, Kenny, some people would say, "What are you're helping people break the law here? What are you know? You're breaking the law. They should be smoking stuff that'll get them sick. I mean, what the heck is this? You're helping people break the law by doing this. What do you say to those people?"
You know, that it's really a whole different situation now in terms of you know, our country, because what I find in talking to people is that virtually every single person that I talk to about, you know, medical marijuana, this kind of thing, everyone will say to me, you know, I agree with you absolutely, but I think that nobody else does. And really what I've been doing is just trying to convince you that you feel that way because really
So a lot of people-
everybody else does. And
Well, because people are generally empathetic, and nobody wants to watch someone suffer for no reason at all. When their suffering can be alleviated, why not? You know, why are you allowing people to just sit by and suffer?
right, and
And the
you,
urgency is that people are sick right now.
well, and the thing is too is like it's a serious issue. It's not like people hear medical marijuana and they tend to chuckle a little bit, but it's not a joke.
Not
I
for
mean,
the
like
patients,
you
no.
got to look at that Judge Reichbach, who recently passed away, and you know, he made that public announcement
Yes.
of how medical marijuana had been helping him, and you know that's the thing is it is the best treatment in a number of circumstances for quite a wide variety of different things. Like I always say, you know, marijuana itself is not a treatment for anything. Like well,
It's not a curative.
it's not a curative, you know, except in like some really rare cases, you know, rare disorders. So I don't want to hear from my hemp activist friends about that. Yes, marijuana does actually cure a couple of things, but those are comparatively rare disorders. And the thing is that medical marijuana really is useful as an adjunct to other therapies, because marijuana tends to remove the side effects of a lot of other, you know, modern medical treatments.
Kenny Toglia, thank you for joining us on Let Them Talk and telling us about this. And folks should bring their marijuana, I guess.
Yes, bring your marijuana.
University of the Streets.
130 East 7th Street, second floor.
Thursday night.
We can also be reached at manynyc@gmail.com. That's MMANYNYC@gmail.com. Medical
Thank you.
Marijuana Association of New York.
Great.
Yes,
Great.
always
Take
good
care.
to see you guys.
Excellent.